Hello, everybody. This is Ryan from my Try Running Programs, and we are into week 2 of the Hal Higdon Personal Best Marathon Training Program. And as you can see, it's still pretty much the very much so introductory phase, probably a little bit of base building, really, if we're being honest. And this is a week that, as the prior week, has three 3 mile easy runs, two speed sessions being a 3 by hill session and a 30-minute fartlek session, and a 7 mile long run, or probably really in most cases, more a medium distance type run for now. So with that being said, I'll kind of go over the overall week and how it felt and what was achieved during those runs. And then naturally, I'll also try to go over a little bit some of the Runalyze data so you can see kind of where my VO2 max was going. It will give away some of, kind of where I'm at. I'm in theory right now near the end of week 4. So I'm kind of going back and getting caught up with, how these weeks went so that people can kind of see that data in real time. So with that being said, I ended up running roughly about a little over 30 miles in that week and a little bit under about 800 feet of elevation gain or vertical gain during that week. So I'll just quickly go over the easy runs. As you can see, I ran 2 of them back to back, those in about the 8:30 pace very early in the morning. So in my neck of the woods of California right now, it's generally kind of foggy in our pre-summer months. And so I have to kind of move kind of slow so I don't trip and fall or just end up injuring myself in some silly way. So I take those relatively very, very easy. And then for the third easy run of the week, very similarly as well, kept it in that 8:30 pace. For the first major workout, it was I jumped up and did the Fartlek Run so that I could do the hill work over here where I work in the Marina/Monterey area of California. So for the Fartlek, that was the first speed session of the week. And it went quite well, I'd like to think. What I did was I laddered it using a kind of 1 minute hard and then 1 minute easy and then 2 minutes hard and 2 minutes easy and so on and so forth up to 5 minutes. And then that was enough time of 15 minutes of work and 15 minutes of rest in between the reps that I counted that as the full 30. Now, for some runners, depending on maybe how advanced you are, you may just start with making sure that you're doing 30 minutes of hard running and not counting the rest repetitions. I just feel based on how low the mileage of this program is to start, if I were to do that, the run would probably go on for somewhere around 10 to 11, maybe 12 miles, which I don't think, in my opinion at least, is Hal's intention right now. I believe, he really views it as that 30 minutes of fartlek time includes both your speed work, your speed play, as a fartlek stands for, and also the rest repetitions that you're taking as well. So you can see I warm up for about a mile to start and keep that really as easy as humanly possible. And same thing with my cool downs. I keep that in that same easy pace that I would be doing at any other given time during the week based on how my legs feel. And then during the middle of the run, both between the hard work and the rest repetitions between there, you can see that I was able to pop off a couple of decent miles in the low 7s and then a couple of more high 7 miles. Still very much so getting my legs underneath me at this time. I will say, my speed work has definitely improved over the last couple of weeks. But as I've alluded to in my prior videos, this is really kind of all new for me for this year. I have not done a lot of fast running. So this was overall a positive. The first rep kept it in the low 6s. The second rep got it in some cases into the high 5s, but once again, mainly low 6s. And then you can see the final reps by and large were also anywhere from about low 6s to high 5s. And the final rep really was one that started in the low 6s, technically high 5s, but it was downhill running at that point in time, and really mid 6s to low 7s at that point. I would say this particular fartlek run that I had, that final 5 minutes of running was pretty daunting, to be honest. It felt like I kind of mentally knew it was going to be hard for me, and it certainly was. And you can see even on the profile here, in terms of the elevation profile, there's no serious grade there. So it really isn't difficult running, but just because the speed work was so new for me, it felt really, really hard. And so that was the only real drawback to this run. Otherwise, I felt like I did the workout pretty darn well, given where I'm at right now with my particular running, okay? And then for the second speed session of the week, this is where we did the 3 by hill workout. And I like to do those a little bit further towards the coast because we have a little bit more hills in our neck of the woods here. So what I ended up ultimately doing was doing a 3 by hill workout, running along kind of the Highway 1 area here of California. And there's some good rolling hills here. And what I tried to really do was to run some of the downhills a little bit faster, regardless of where I was at. And then obviously the uphills for the 3 reps that I did really, really hard. Now, this run looks kind of all over the place because I really did my 3 reps pretty early in the run, and I didn't want to just turn back around and run back to my office. I wanted to just kind of keep going and try out some different areas for future hill workouts when there are a little bit more repetitions, such as like 4, 5, 6, 7+ reps. So that's why this run looks a little weird. It ended up being in total about a 7 mile run, and then an average out smooth pace of about 7:30 across those 7 miles. So you can see a couple of miles in the mid sixes, a couple of miles in the mid eights, and then a few in the high sevens. But really, the work miles were right here in 2 and 3. This is where I ran my 3 hills. So where I start is kind of near a college campus that I work at. I run down and out as a warm up for roughly about a mile, maybe 1.1 miles until I get to this bike path here at around roughly mile 1. So I get a good little workout in there in terms of just getting the legs loose, getting ready for the repetitions. The first rep it technically goes downhill net, as you can see, but it's a rolling hill and it visually looks really uphill. It looks far more daunting than the Strava data would lead you to believe. And it kind of rolls up a couple of times until you get up to this area where you can see the ocean, and then you go downhill pretty significantly again, as you can see. And then there's another hill that kind of goes up to this crossroad. So you're running hard up this hill again. And then there's a really tiny little hill that I took a little break on. And then there's another little tiny hill, and that's where I did my 3rd rep. So you can see I kept the reps right around the mid sixes, and in some cases the mid fives, but primarily the work was done in the mid sixes here for this particular workout. And then the rest of the workout is essentially just a very long cool down. So it's very weird data in terms of the actual run, because most of the work was done so early. In fact, really most of the work was done from mile 1 to mile 2.5. And then everything else was just effectively easy running with maybe picking up the pace a little bit on the downhills just to get a little bit of extra work in for the legs. So overall, the one thing I would really add to this week is that this is when I've started to use my Saucony Freedom 4s, and I absolutely am loving those shoes for more pacey type efforts. They have a really good squishy material. It's very similar to the Adidas boots. And I've talked about this in my past videos, that I think the combination of its rubber outsole with that kind of TPU material really is nice. I like the springiness of it. It's not too cush, but it's cushy enough that you feel good as you're running while getting some good feedback from your legs. So I've really been enjoying the shoes, and I feel like I've been getting a lot out of my runs using those particular shoes for those efforts. And then the final run for the week was a 7 mile long run. Once again, I always put those in quotes because for me, they don't feel terribly long, but they're meant to be run pretty easy. And I ran this actually the slowest on average. I would say my legs were a little beat up from that prior effort. So you can see I kept everything really in the 9s very consistently. There's this weird spike here. I'm not particularly sure why there's this spike here where it got up into the 7s, but really it was between the 9 and the 10 minute per mile pace. So I was glad I listened to my body on this long run. That's atypical for me. I tend to overdo it more often than not. So I feel like overall through this training program, and I think you'll see this a little bit when I go through week 3 and week 4, I'm doing a much better job of listening to my body comparative to past training cycles, at least so far. But we're very early into it, so we'll see if I keep that energy up, I suppose. Okay, in terms of the Runalyze data, didn't look great for my VO2 max, to be honest with you. You can see the first run, it kept it at about a 53. Then the second easy run, it viewed it as a 48. And then 47, it kind of went down again. And the only other run that it considered quite good was this weird 1 mile run that actually happened before my speed workout. I was going to do the hill workout more near my home, but it kind of a freak thing happened where I was running and I came across literally a box full of quarters, and I felt the need to pick them up and walk them back to my house. I don't know why. I guess it was enough quarters to make me want to do so. So I kind of have this weird 1 rogue mile run that fit in on the same day that I did the hill workout over here in the Monterey Peninsula area. So overall, this would have, I probably, if I would have recorded this video more near when I actually did these runs, I would have been quite disappointed with my VO2 max in terms of how it looked on paper. This week prompted me to do was to actually vastly lower the amount of caffeine I'm taking throughout the day. And in fact, a lot of days I'm not taking any caffeine at all. I'm not ingesting any caffeine or any yohimbine, which are both, relatively strong stimulants when paired together. So that's one of the things that I took away from this week and a little bit from week 3 was I just felt like it was time to get rid of that from my training cycle. They are great tools to use on days like today where I did a speed workout or a speed session, I suppose, and it can help boost you up a little bit, but I don't feel like I need it on a day-by-day basis, and I don't think it's beneficial to giving me the best insight into really the raw data of how my running is going. So overall, the VO2 max is improving. You can obviously see it to the right that my VO2 max is higher on average than what this week would tell you, but I'll save that for a future video. So at this current point in time, now this is where I'd have to go back a little bit with the marathon shape. I'll go back 2 weeks, but you can see right around this time frame, Runalyze views my optimal marathon around a 3:12 pace or 7:20 per mile pace, which, once again, if you go back and you watch my CIM video, that's about what I was running on average for the first 20 miles of CIM before it just kind of all blew up and I completely bonked and fell apart for the final 6 and change miles. So that sounds about right so far, and I think that's relatively fair given that it viewed my effective VO2 max at about 49.5 at that particular point in time. Now, naturally, what Runalyze wants me to do is bump my mileage far, far up, more above 50 miles a week, and to get a 19-mile long run in, and that's far, far down the road in this program. So this marathon shape data is going to be pretty inaccurate, for the lack of better way of putting it, for quite some time. And I'm using it just as a metric to see where it's going, where that overall optimal marathon pace is going. I'm not living and dying by this number, but it's just something that I'm keeping in the back of my mind as we're working our way through this program. So overall, I feel really good. I think week 2 was generally a success, I would say. I think this particular speed session in Marina was probably what made me feel like the week wasn't a total waste when we look at the VO2 max data. But overall, I felt like my legs grew stronger from this. And certainly you'll see that a lot more in the subsequent weeks as I continue to record them. So with that being said, I hope your training is going well, and I look forward to seeing you in future videos. Take care.